Welcome along, everybody, to our fourth and final game of this Monday in the Luna League. We are here to see Universal Basic Income versus the Church. This is 1 and 2 in the league, effectively. Church, I haven't actually seen them play too much yet, but I'm actually really excited to see this draft come together. It is very quickly with these bans.
Yeah, well, if you haven't seen them play very much, it's because they haven't played very much. They've been involved in numerous forfeits. So this is actually, I think it's about like the third time that we've actually seen them on stage. And coming through to start with Universal Basic Income taking away Victor, Rel, and Gangplank. Church of Alfonso taking away Ash, Lysandra, Galio, very CC lockdown-oriented champions. And YUBI is going to immediately grab J4. It's been a very good pick in FOF this season. Poppy as a response, not bad either.
Yeah, no, quick reaction there. Getting Utility Monster onto something that he can be active on. We've seen some really good aggression in the early games, the Corki lock in there for RHC. But yeah, no, Utility Monster been really active in that early game, and I love the Annie lock in very, very, very quickly from Universal. They are starting to get close to that point where they can confirm playoffs, and we know that this group likes to start to mess around, likes to have some fun, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do with the Annie. We know that the Jarvan's aggressive, and speaking of aggressive, that Senna is bound to be dominant in the bot lane. I'm very sorry if Brendan's tuned in.
Yeah, Senna is just a good pick right now. Got buffed very recently. Ezreal as an answer is nice and safe. Shouldn't be falling too far behind. And now we're going to move into the second phase of bans. What do you think so far of these two drafts?
I think that neither of them have actually given too much away yet. So the Poppy, obviously, that could flex jungle, and I think we actually have seen it more jungle in these leagues, which is strange because you think Poppy, you think top laner. Corki's obviously trying to be, that pressure, that gradual scaling. Obviously, Corki does scale a lot better into late game than he kind of has historically. He used to be that kind of mid-game Triforce champion that fell off into later stages. But nowadays, he's actually got some really solid damage going into later games. He's getting rid of some tanky engage from both of these teams between that Alistar and the Malphite. The two-stage Malphite and the one-stage Malphite, as it were. And there's that Wukong going off the board away from Freelancer. If they do decide to lock that. But yeah, no, I think that YUBI has some nice engage right now. They have the ability to play around what I assume is going to be Utility Monster on that Jarvan. Obviously, could go to the bot lane. Yeah, Church of Alfonso really hasn't shown too much yet for what they want to necessarily be doing. And we're going to see some big... they're going to reveal their cards in these last few picks and start to show us what might be happening.
Yeah, so we do see the Wukong taken away. Wukong, as we all know, is basically just two Malphites, so good to see that going away. And yeah, we'll see what YUBI responds with. They're going to take away Mordekaiser. So both teams have thrown a decent amount of bans around top lane, so I'm really curious to see what that matchup is. I agree that this Poppy's probably going to be flexed into the jungle. I think that a lot of times junglers sort of just pick up what's left in terms of champions, and the top, because their individual matchup matters less. So I think that's why we've been seeing Poppy go more towards the jungle rather than her traditional role. 2 seconds left for Church of Alfonso. They're going to lock in Braum. Very safe, tanky pick.
Yeah, okay, so that's just an option to try and make that bot lane a little bit safer. Might be trying to rely on that Ezreal to scale up. Obviously, Ezreal, when piloted very well, can deal a lot of damage in the later stages of the game. It's obviously more challenging. You've got to land all your skill shots, got to weave in your auto attacks, but can be very strong. And they do have that Corki as that secondary marksman. And they've created a little bit of a front line for themselves, so it's interesting to see how they're going to grind out that comp. On the other side, though, I do imagine that Senna is going to have to be an AD carry role. I don't know that it necessarily fits Jeff's playstyle too much. See the Trundle maybe coming in for Freelancer to go into that top lane. No swap to the set that will be in the hands of Freelancer, playing into what looks like it might be a Poppy at this point, but obviously they could flex. I'm going to see the final thing locked in there for what I imagine will be for Civlock, because that could, Brian being on Annie doesn't shock me, but I might be wrong. But yeah, no, the Braum to make that bot lane safer for Church is interesting. I really want to know what this last pick is going to be, because they really need to make this composition start to do something, because right now it just kind of stands there and gets engaged on, doesn't have any way to peel off. Obviously, there's a couple good options there, Poppy and Malphite ulti, or the Braum ulti. There's the Cho'Gath locked in.
So that's going to be a set down in the support role. It is going to be Senna AD carry. I'm curious to see if the Senna will be fasting. and have the set pick up the CS, because set can scale really well with gold, Senna can scale really well just off the souls, so that is a potential angle.
Cho Senna.
It could be Cho Senna.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, so they have a couple options for their bot lane here. Really, I've said that they're going to show their hand here, but maybe they won't until we actually get into the game and that Gnar locked in top lane.
I think Gnar is a really good answer to whatever top laner they're going to throw, so I think that's a really solid pick.
Yeah, I think that the team fighting that is available now from Church of Alfonso, being able to engage with that Gnar, if they can play around it well, get the Poppy in there to kind of break down any kind of engage that might be from that Jarvan, get the Ezreal and the Corki to lay some damage down. I actually really like the composition they've put together, and I'd be really interested to see how they can take that to YUBI.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see who exactly is going to be piloting which champion. Personally, I think Church of Alfonso has a really good composition. I think all around it's really solid, so that's where I would lean.
So it is set in the bot lane.
It is going to be Brian Sang set down in the bot lane. I think that's traditional and it makes sense. We are going to see Senna Spectral Sickle, indicating that the set is going to be the one farming down in the bot side, so we're going to spread the love. And that's going to make it so that YUBI has a very ferocious front line, able to gather a lot of tank stats, a lot of HP.
Yeah, no, I actually really like the way the Church has put their composition together here. They have a really concise way that they want to play. The problem that they're going to run into is whether or not they can work around that Gnar bar. Very, very challenging thing to work around. Obviously, Gnar, one of the worst champions in the game in team fights when he's in the mini farm, and one of the best champions in the game when he's in that mega form. You really run on like you're swinging back and forth on a metronome on that, and whether or not you can get these team fights in effectively. And I think if they can find those fights with the Gnar, they have so much backline damage, they have so much reduction of access through the Braum and through the Poppy, but it feels like they have a lot to go on, and they have to survive through this early game where you have Utility Monster going around on this Jarvan, where we could see some early ganks.
Yeah, we've seen Jarvan just recently have a pretty early gank be very successful over in the mid lane. I believe it was Tiki from Serenity Senate that ended up losing their flash very early on into the game. So we'll have to see. Yeah, so we'll have to see if Utility Monster is able to put up a similar performance. Gonna go down to Krugs. So maybe looking to collect 3 camps and gank mid lane after taking the Raptors. Maybe looking for a level 2 gank bot lane. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at this bot lane right now, the Senna and the set, obviously. Senna has a lot of prowess on her own. And I'm interested to see how Jeff is going to be handling that. Senna could walk up on her own, deal damage on her own, walk away on her own, get health back on her own. Doesn't need any sort of help. And really the reason why that gets slowed down normally is because she has to stop to farm. You put her on that support role, that is all of a sudden gone, and now she can try and play a little bit more damage active, get that poke. And I don't think that Braum and Ezreal can really punish her for doing that. Meanwhile, on the top side, this is going to be a farm fest until the Gnar can start to get some damage down. I think that right now, where we're going to see him go into the Mega for the first time, could be an early fight. I don't know how well Cho'Gath can take this, but obviously the level disadvantage is going to make that more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, especially in the early stages, this top lane should be going pretty even. Cho'Gath has a lot of sustain with passive. Getting a little frisky in the bot lane, but it doesn't look like too much is going to come from it as Set misses the Facebreaker. So should be a little more safety for Church of Alfonso in this bot lane, and that's what they want.
And it ended up being a full clear from the Jarvan on the side of Utility Monster, and it looks like there's going to be 1 crab apiece. Krug was obviously left up there from Paytime. But yeah, very passive start from this Jarvan. We've seen Jarvans be really aggressive, and probably what Church of Alfonso was expecting when they see that Jarvan pick up when we see Utility Monster on it. But maybe just going for a little bit more passive play. I'd be interested to see where he puts that first gank, but I think Paytime has already locked on the target for who he wants to go for, and that appears to be Jeff God Gamer, already getting 2 stacks of that Braum passive down, going to be stunned up by the Ezreal, and does get Facebreaker together. Great peel there from Brian Sang, and it looks like the bot lane of YUBI is going to be able to walk away so much damage down onto that Ezreal. He's going to be able to sidestep. No, has to flash out from the Senna W, and no kill's going to be going across, but well handled there to keep the cool there from Brian Sang to Facebreaker that team together and make sure that they cannot keep on their pursuit of Jeff.
Yeah, and we see Utility Monster able to stop any sort of re-engage that Church of Alfonso is looking for. Gonna go back over to those Krugs, farm them up. Yeah, Paytime just wasn't able to quite find an angle to push someone into a wall. Credit where credit's due, Brian Sang did a great job of disrupting that play from the side of Church of Alfonso. And that's just going to keep everything at a relative... Well, actually, I was about to say it's relatively even state, but actually it's going to be YUBI with about 700 gold ahead, and a surprising amount of it's just in this top lane.
Yeah, no, and you do start to get that passive gold game from the Senna. Obviously, she's going to be stacking that Spectral Sickle so fast. She gets so much gold from pulling souls. You're going to get a lot of gold out of that Senna just passively, and that's why she can afford to go as a damage role in this supportive position where she's not getting CS. And I think you're right, saying that top lane, a lot of gold gap up there, 7 CS difference. Now, obviously, very early in the game, that's not definitive, but it does make a difference. And I think if YUBI can continue to make these plays where they're dodging out on damage, they're dodging out of ganks, they can just passively find this gold, it's going to be very good. And I think they're going to force a back out of the bot lane of Church of Alfonso. And if not, there could be a pretty serious dive on their way.
Yeah, the concussive blows coming out from Braum and not able to stop Brian Sang's onslaught on this set. Doing a great job, honestly, dominating this laning phase and actually picking up a CS advantage, but a fight in the top side.
Engage in the top side now, and we don't see the Narbar quite finish. Freelancer does go for the flash. The flashback from Paytime, pulling back that Cho'Gath, that is going to be first blood over to that Dark Harvest Poppy. And we'll see where he can snowball from there. That Poppy can get out of control, does have that dash, is very, very quick, able to get on top of people. And honestly, it sounds like an odd build, really, going for that almost certainly a lethality Poppy build with that Dark Harvest. But it does a lot of damage. It can be really scary just having that Poppy roaming around. You can't really get her off of you. She's able to engage so well just being designed as a tank, and she can deal a lot of damage. Speaking of a lot of damage, though, Brian Sang gets the flash, and there's the kill back for Jeff God Gamer for YUBI, and they might even go for this dive. No, just deciding to play it safe, push this wave in, put that Ezreal even further behind. Big wave dumping in, and well played from the bot lane duo. So it looks like they might be going for a play there. No, just going to pick up tower plates.
Brian Sang has absolutely been dominating this laning phase. Church of Alfonso's bot lane and Cold Blaster and Beshi Wap can't catch a break. Paytime's going to try and mitigate what's going on the bot side, but we saw how that went earlier. Really good start from YUBI's bot side, and in particular, Brian Sang has been playing absolutely perfectly this game.
We know that in the entirety of the FOF League this season, this is the bot lane to watch. This is the bot lane to compare yourself to. This is the standard. These guys are so dominant. They're very strong in their laning phase. They're very strong in the later stages of the game. Brian is consistently able to take over games with these playmaking champions, and Jeff is always capable of finding damage. So when you're playing as Church of Alfonso, you have to know that this is a threat, which is probably why we saw that early pressure from the Poppy, but they haven't been able to turn it into anything. But now just catching the recalls, going to grab this early this Windrake, and it does get smited over, and that looks like Utility Monster is going to go down to the Poppy. That is a second kill over to Paytime on this Poppy.
Yeah, and it looks like Poppy might be going towards a Divine Sunder.
Yeah, could be Divine Sunder.
That'd be a really interesting build path for Poppy. I've never seen it before, but clearly that's where the money's going right now. There are 3 Sheens on the side of Church of Alfonso, and I'm actually really excited. I think that Paytime has been playing, in general, really well in this league. I believe we saw him do quite a bit on Lee Sin not too long ago, and Poppy being a very different pick, but also going Paytime's way in the early game.
Yeah, no, and I'm really, like, you have to keep your eyes on that Poppy because he's been so effective in this early game. Even though he has had the one gank that didn't go too well, it was still able to get sums off of Jeff, who's just going to recover that flash in the next few seconds. But, you know, Poppy like that, I can't judge its damage. There's the Dark Harvest on board. There's going to be, big Sheen item on board. I can't judge the damage, but I'd be really interested because I bet you Paytime can, and Paytime can go for these plays where he knows he's going to be able to find those kills and start making some plays around the map in the favor of Church of Alfonso, who is down on gold right now.
Yeah, YUBI's just had, honestly, superior laning. A lot of that's in bot lane. You know, there's a solid 6 CS or so for Civilox, Annie, in mid lane. Oh, here goes Brian Sang.
Bit of a fight coming together now as Brian Sang pulling out of the Senna W. Does look like Beshiwap's going to get very low, but he's just going to be able to disengage with that flash, walk away, no problem. But that's the thing with the Senna bot lane is you take a trade like that, and now they're going to heal up. Now they're going to be able to restore all that HP through the Senna healing and through the set passive. And taking trades like that, even you burn ultis, whatever it is, there's sums down on the side of Church of Alfonso, and that gold lead is just going to grow.
Yeah, I mean, so far, I think YUBI's been playing these lanes just really well. I think I'm a little surprised to see how well Cho'Gath is doing in the top lane, despite the fact that the Freelancer did die early to a gank from Paytime. And Annie is up on RHC's Corki, and I just think UB is currently just playing the lanes better. Utility Monster really hasn't been able to get around to do that much. It's normally what you see the Jarvan doing. And Brian's saying...
Cold Blaster now having to use that ulti to disengage there on the Braum, but I think they're just going to be able to walk away. And now there's the ultimate coming in topside. Freelancer barely dodges out on the wall, but here comes Paytime, ready to push him back in, get that stun down. There's the smite. Proccing that Dark Harvest does manage to push him away. There's the ulti coming down from Jeff God to try and save his ally. It does not connect in time, and that is a third kill over to Paytime's Poppy.
This Poppy is going to be a huge threat as this game goes on. More and more gold getting funneled into the little Yordle with the big hammer, and we're going to have to see what Paytime does with it. Very productive in the early game, but most of his laners are still losing their lanes. So I think it's going to be actually up to this Poppy as the game goes on to carry Church of Alfonso if they're going to find a victory in this one.
As a CS fiend myself, I have to give some props out to Civillock, only missing 6 CS in the first 10 minutes of this game. It really stand out. You have to be dominant in that mid lane, clearly causing RHC some problems on that Corki. And you think of mid laners right now, Corki's on there. Annie isn't necessarily, but Civillock seems to be. And now we see a little bit of a fight breaking on the bot side. They might try and go for Cold Blaster if they know that the Braum has recalled. But no, just trying to get some damage down, just trying to get some turret plates, get some more gold. And this passive scaling from YUBI is going to start to become a problem.
You were just talking about how good Civillock has been CSing in the middle lane. In fact, he's picked up a gold bounty for himself. Oh, and it's going to go away. It's probably going to blink back and forth a little bit. This Annie's been CSing so well.
Paytime finding the engage, but now getting ulted out by Brian Sang is going to drop the massive haymaker, not quite picking up the kill on Paytime. Paytime is going to be able to walk away from that ignite with just over 100 HP, and now the disengage is going to have to come from the side of YUBI. No Ezreal ulti there to back up, but that could have actually been a big shutdown over to Brian Sang, and a lot of the momentum that Church of Alfonso currently has could have gone by the wayside.
I respect the cojones of Paytime to step up and not even flash. Looked like a pretty desperate situation, but very familiar with the range of the Facebreaker and knows that he's going to get out all right. So now we're going to look over to the mid lane utility monster looking for RHC, not going to find anything on the flag in drag. We've seen quite a quiet game from a Jarvan. Normally you see him being the one to have the most proactive early game, but it's actually been Poppy of all champions.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. I think that is the first time that we've seen Utility Monster actually start to make a proactive play. I say this, there's a little bit of engage coming into the box side around this dragon. It seems like UV is going to try and get their people in place to try and take this. But yeah, no, Utility Monster has been kind of sub-active, and now we see Gnar starting to come down, but has just come out of that Mega, doesn't have the Gnar bar available. Now UV is trying to re-engage onto this Corki. He's just going to be able to W away. Now there's a 4v5 TP available for Freelancers. They try to stand up for this dragon. Does UV want to try and pressure for it? Civillock has the flash, has the ult, has the stun available. Brian does not have ulti available because of that previous fight, but does decide to flash in. There's the Cataclysm on top of massive Senna ulti. A lot of damage coming up from the side of UV as they pick up the first kill in a second. Onto that Poppy. No smite available. This is going to be Dragon going over. Civillock picks up a double kill, and what a well-executed fight on the side of the Catboys to take down Church of Alfonso in this initial fight, but RHC trying to finally get away from this bad situation. Cold Blaster not in a better situation himself as the dragon does go over to the side of UV. It seems like Freelancer's going to try and hunt down RHC under this turret. Is he going to be able to pick it up? The silence comes down, but I think Corki's actually going to be able to turn this. Freelancer overextending a little bit, does have the ultimate and gets away with the kill. There's going to be a kill traded over here to Cold Blaster. No, missing the Q and turning around. Does Freelancer have a way out of this with the Q knockup? Is he going to be able to sneak it between the turrets here? No, he is not. Single kill over to RHC there. No assist given over. Well played by Freelancer.
Wow. That... I can't believe Freelancer got away with that. That was honestly quite a greedy play, but barely gets into range for the feast. And I think it might actually be those feast stacks that make Cho'Gath's butt a little too big to walk between those towers. Otherwise, might have been able to get out. Yeah, very well played fight overall from the side of YUBI. They were able to force RHC out the back of the fight very early, and were able to capitalize on a 4v5 engage.
Yeah. Honestly, like just layering all those ultis on top of each other with that Jarvan, with the Annie, with the Senna, it just makes that engage really, really safe. Gives you a lot of HP, gives you a lot of damage, a massive health bar swing. Great engage from Brian Sang. To draw the attention over to Utility Monster now, gets caught out in the jungle. This is a 2v2. Lots of damage on the Utility Monster, but he does have the flash available, so he's going to be able to walk away. The flash Q there, not going to pick up a kill there, and it looks like Utility Monster is going to be safe under turret. Nothing happening here. The Herald is available for Paytime right now. Maybe looking to drop it, maybe waiting for the Jarvan to recall. I do want to quickly draw attention to the build paths here of Church of Alfonso. 4 Sunderers about to come on deck here once the Ezreal is able to finish it. And the engage now from Veshiwap into the blue jungle, not letting me talk about the funny build idiosyncrasies, the shutdown from Veshiwap onto the Civ block, and now they're going to try and take this blue buff as Freelancer decides that that is going to be his golem. No, over to RHC. Veshiwap decides to re-engage on almost no HP, does get picked up, and the kill goes over for the 4th time to Paytime.
Yeah, Paytime really is getting paid this time. Getting so much gold over to this Poppy. Yeah, everybody's got a Divine Sunder on the side of Church of Alfonso. It's going to negate a lot of that health stacking from champions like Jarvan, from champions like Set, from champions like Cho'Gath. So honestly, it's a pretty good game to be stacking health. Even champions like Annie are getting some amount of it from the Leandri's Anguish. So really, and even Senna with the Divine Sunder is going to have a little extra health to take away from all of these Divine Sunders. Paytime's going to drop a Herald into the top lane, knock down this tower. Gonna be, yep, and it's gone.
Yeah, no, tower taken over. I'm really hoping that that Kindle Gem on Veshiwap is going to be going to that Divine Sunderer, but I think Cold Blast now caught out in the bot lane, doesn't have flash available, and there's going to be no way out of here. Kill goes over to Utility Monster, and there's no saving him there.
Yeah, the Ezreal just out on his own. You know, it's one of the safer champions to be in a situation like that, but not without any vision or jungle control. Freelancer might be a little caught out here by Paytime, but doesn't have the damage.
No, I don't think there's any way to break that Cho'Gath on your own right now. The Sunfire is finished. I'm really waiting for that Divine Sunder to get finished on the Ezreal. I really just want to see that line there. Veshiwap finding Utility Monster in the jungle, but do they have the people mid lane to try and find some sort of engage now? Just RHC holding this tower, and I think we came out of the lull state of this game a few minutes ago. We had that initial fight for Dragon, all of a sudden there's been blood going back and forth. Prior to that, it was just Paytime walking around, making it his show. And now we hit the lull state again, maybe, where we're waiting for this next Dragon to come up in a minute.
Yeah, Dragon's coming up. It looks like it is going to be an Ocean Soul this game. Very good soul. Both teams want it, yada yada. Honestly, I think YUBI have been playing these lanes just so well. They've come out, even in the jungle, they've been coming out with CS leads basically everywhere except in that top lane where it makes sense. Cho'Gath has died 4 times and is still really close to the 1 death on the Gnar, who doesn't have more kill participation. So honestly, really well laned by Freelancer to be in that state. Brian Sang looking for RHC in the mid lane, not going to find anything just yet.
Yeah, no, and the laning phases have been huge for the side of YUBI. It's why they have such a big lead. They're, it's even on towers, basically even on kills, nowhere near even on gold right now, and that's going to let YUBI take this lead, let them take it into this next dragon fight, and it's just going to snowball. Gold turns into gold, and if YUBI plays their cards right, which they have been so far, it looks like they're going to catch Veshiwap out. Paytime has to burn the ultimate. That's 2 ultis burned 15 seconds before this first Ocean Drag comes out, and I'm under the impression that Church of Alfonso would be wiser to leave this one and let it go into the hands of YUBI.
I think you have to. From the side of YUBI, they don't really see who all's here and who is not. It looks like Church of Alfonso want to contest this one, and they'll be able to get there as YUBI hasn't started it up yet.
So Gnar can stack the Gnar bar. The RHC is currently sitting on the package. There is a lot of team fighting tools at the ready here from Church of Alfonso. Freelancer is not quite in position. It's going to be all about, can that Gnar bar come up before something crucial happens? YUBI has to be keeping an eye on that. They have to be keeping an eye on that Corki. And because of this split attention, they're able to get forced off of the dragon. Church of Alfonso might want to try and start it now. It's dancing back and forth in the river.
We're seeing Church of Alfonso do a pretty good job of utilizing the tools that they have to
they're about to pull Mega now. There's the engage. It gets blocked immediately. There's the massive Gnar into the wall. Damage starting to come down, but it is a kill picked up, 1 for either side. Great Ulti in for Brian Sang as they pick up even more kills. Great turn on the fight. There was a massive gnar for Church of Alfonso, but now Jeff God Gamer and Cold Blast trying to get damage down the Q misses, and so it's not going to be a trade there. It looked like such a good engage initially for Church of Alfonso, but it gets turned so fast on its head by none other than Brian Sang.
Yeah, we're just seeing that Church of Alfonso doesn't really have the damage to win any of these fights. I mean, the Corki needs some time to scale up. The Ezreal's pretty far behind. Poppy is not a DPS machine traditionally, nor in this game, as Paytime has started to itemize towards a Bramble Vest and a Null Magic Mantle, so some more defensive items. We're going to have to be paying really close attention to RHC to see if this damage can come through from Church of Alfonso, because it's not there yet. YUBI did a really good job waiting out Corki's package to make sure that they didn't have an even better initiation that would have surely decimated them in seconds.
Yeah, no, it was really good for Paytime to be ready, conscious of that Jarvan, deny that engage. So that was number one. That was just completely went by the wayside. Of course, the Cataclysm never ended up getting used for that fight. Then the Senna ulti goes over the top and deals damage, but isn't reducing it, which is, you know, the big thing that Senna can do. She can do these health bar swings up on one side, down on the other. She only gets half effectiveness from that ulti. And then you see that massive Gnar ultimate. And then the pockets come into play where there's no gold on this Ezreal, there's a very little gold on this Corki, and all of it's on Poppy. And like you were saying, Poppy is not dealing the damage they need right now. Poppy was good in this early game stage where Poppy can run around, proc that Dark Harvest, get these ganks down, and maybe, like we'll see right now, as Paytime starts to walk their way into top lane, and now this is the immediate fight. There's the Gnar ulti burned into the wall. Another change CC with the stun. The wall goes down. Freelancer getting so low. I don't see any way out of here if they're going to give the kill over to Paytime. Flash burn, and no! Freelancer flashes over the wall, manages to walk their way out of that fight.
Wow, I cannot believe that Cho'Gath was able to waddle out of that one. It looked pretty near hopeless, and even though Church of Alfonso has all of the CC and all of these Divine Sunders, they're missing the damage to really take out any of these big health stacking threats.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried. Like, that seemed like an optimal situation. You have your Poppy, which is all your gold, on top of this Cho'Gath, who is having the worst game. Not necessarily by any fault of Freelancer playing a poor game, but just struggling the most in this top lane. And you can't take him down in the 2v1. That starts to look worrying, and as the gold lead climbs up to 4,000, and you know that feels even bigger when you have that much gold onto your main tank, it starts to get really scary. Look at the gold differences, and the mid lane is almost 1,000. The jungle is where the most even point is, but like you said, this bot lane, massive. It is gold difference between Senna and Ezreal, and between Set and Braum, and that is where most of that gold lead is. And unfortunately, the gold that Church of Alfonso has been able to pick up, like we said, is on that Poppy.
Yeah, and honestly, even though Poppy has the most gold, well, actually, just a little under Corki on the side of Church of Alfonso, that's where a lot of the resources have been going. But we're seeing that Utility Monster's Jarvan is actually really even with this Poppy. So if there's not even a gold lead there, there's no gold lead anywhere.
Yeah, no, the difference that is we were hoping that Poppy would have, the Church of Alfonso had to be hoping was available on that Poppy, just doesn't seem to have appeared. The hard farming strategy that we've seen from Utility Monster, being there for the fights, being there for those, you know, it hasn't necessarily been there for skirmishes as much as just for those big fights, but it's been enough to get the KP rolling. 6 assists on this Jarvan right now. And you get the amount of gold from that extra farming that he's been up to. It hasn't been playing super early aggression. I like this calculated Jarvan play that we were not expecting from him.
Yeah, I think it's looked really good this game. I think that Church of Alfonso was kind of not really able. I mean, they tried to punish it, really, with how active Paytime was on the map early, and Utility Monster not really able to set up any counter ganks to deny Paytime, but ultimately superior laning is mitigating that difference. And as a result, YUBI is off to a massive 4,000 gold lead at 23 minutes. It's hard to see how Church of Alfonso can really get back in this one.
I mean, I think the best bet for them is to try. The difficult thing is that their best bet is to let this Ezreal scale up, let the Corki scale up, let your Gnar, who's going to be a big chunk of your damage, get some of those items online. But you're playing into two perma-scaling champions, not just the Senna in the bot lane, but you also have that Cho'Gath top lane who's just going to get harder and harder to knock down. Senna's going to get even further and further away from you, dealing damage, healing up her team, giving her team shield. It starts to get really troublesome. And I agree with you where Church of Alfonso might have like a 5-minute window if they can get some gold in their pocket where they can actually take this game. But the passive scaling that YUBI has drafted for themselves is going to make this lead almost insurmountable.
Right, as we get towards the second Ocean Drake spawning, it's clear that Church of Alfonso wants to fight for it, but how will they be able to do it? YUBI has established vision control well within this bot side, but they're going to back off, get some mid-priority. And once again, Corki's got the package walk to see if YUBI's able to wait this one out.
Or respecting it very kindly. There's the ulti, or there's the W going backwards. The ulti from Poppy misses, and now that's a lot of cooldowns down. Only the Gnar left, but Gnar bar is not available. Does cancel the charge and engage there. Comes in afterwards. Jeff Got Gamer laying down a big Zen ulti over top of everybody. And the decimation is immediate on the side of Church of Alfonso. There's nobody left standing except for that poor Corki who only had package to defend himself and was thrown away immediately. The ultis are not well timed, unfortunately, on the side of Church of Alfonso, and that will be a clean 5 for 1.
Yeah, YUBI just playing this fight absolutely perfectly. Especially early on in this fight, we see RHC is stepping up a little too far. I'm not sure if he really understood how important this package was to his fight. Gets caught out so early, just steps too far forward. Has to use the package early. Paytime reactionarily uses the Poppy ult, and even though they block the Jarvan engage, it doesn't matter. They've lost so much of their potential in this fight, and so YUBI's just going to walk right over him. I mean, credit to RHC for being able to take down the massive tank that is Freelancer, but then gets slowed up by the Ocean Drake, and then gets chased down pretty easily by Jeff God Gamer and Civilock. So just a really well played fight from YUBI, and I assume we're just going to march right on over to this Baron and pick it up.
Yeah, and I was worried about the steps that needed to come into play for the Church's team fights, right? They need that Gnar to be available. It wasn't. They need the package to be there. It was early. They need the Poppy ult to get rid of those key members. It whiffed wide. The Ezreal ulti hit 2, and at that point the Braum ulti is not going to get much done for you. And obviously these guys can deal more damage with their abilities. But when you have that many spells go awry, and the only thing YUBI has done is give you a funny look, it's not looking good for your chances of taking that dragon, and they've committed too far. They can't get themselves out. I don't know if there was a look to disengage there, but I don't think there was a chance. And now Beshiwap has to burn Flash getting away from Freelancer on a baroned up YUBI squad.
Yeah, it's really hard to see a single way for Church of Alfonso to really compete in this one anymore. Those Divine Sunderers, they're going to need a Divine Miracle that better pray to the Church of Alfonso to get them out of this one, because this is a really tough game state.
Ooh, so Flash ulti there onto Civilock. This is exactly what we need to see teams do from the behind, and that is a 3-person kill picked up there. The important thing is that they've spread the KP around. They get that shutdown onto RHC. That's important. Extra gold onto that Corki, I think that's going to be your main damage dealer right now. I don't feel like Cold Blaster's been able to get much damage off from the backline with that Ezreal. And that is a big pick. That's exactly what you need, is them getting caught out, recalling Desynced, and that's a kill onto Civilock. Now, can they get anything extra with this pressure? Can they get any turret pressure? Can they get any camps? Any extra gold that Church of Alfonso can pick up right now is what they need to be going for. If they can find a 4v5, that'd be amazing. It looks like they're just going to reserve themselves to finally having access to their jungle and clearing some waves.
Yeah, so Corki picking up a pretty big shutdown, able to go back by a Zeal for themselves, which is going to feel pretty nice in terms of damage, but until that 3-item spike comes through, Corki is still not going to be outputting the damage that they need to turn this game around. So we're going to need... Oh, TP in the mid lane by Civilock, gonna back off. Looks like both teams just going to back off, start sieging up on the mid lane. YUBI has a pretty good composition for sieging. Senna keeps them really healthy from any sort of poke that Church of Alfonso can throw down. Paytime's actually going to ult away some minions to try and make the siege a little less painful, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
Yeah, I don't know that that's going to necessarily help them, and it was really unfortunate that Paytime was caught in the blue side jungle there when there was a really compromising TP there from Civlock. They maybe could have picked up a second kill on him back to back, and that would have been more gold in the pocket, but instead they're not ready to react, but ready to react is Utility Monster getting that early engage Paytime onto the backline, but just brought back to his team, put him back in position. There goes the damage from Brian Sang. And that's that fight, 1 over on the side of YUBI. That is the 1 kill they needed. They're going to look for more, pushing their way into the base of Church of Alfonso. They're not going to pick up the kill on Utility Monster. He's going to be able to walk away. He is going to get healed up. Bot lane turret is under pressure now. The flash forward from Jeff God Gamer. Is he going to pick up Cold Blaster? No. Here's the flank now from the Gnar. Gnarbar not currently available, and YUBI takes a tentative step forward towards the Nexus.
Yeah, it's really hard for Church of Alfonso to do much of anything to stop Brian Sang. Just so much damage, but Paytime finds an angle.
Yeah, it looks like he's kind of caught in the middle there. That Facebreaker was kind of moving sideways, though. And now Freelancer ignoring the turret. We see 2 fights that are kind of breaking. Now Veshiwap going low. Freelancer still available as this Gnar goes down. Back on the top fight, looks like they're trading back and forth. Nothing going to be gained past that point, and this is all but over now. The engage cutting off the team now. Civlock caught in by RHC, but is this going to be anything more than anywhere near enough? Cold Blaster does pick up the kill. He's trying to go aggressive. Freelancer gets the silence out, denying some of that damage. RHC's quite healthy on the front line. Paytime finally goes down. There's the Facebreaker onto the Ezreal after picking up the double kill, and it's just RHC versus 3. A very delayed Nexus on the side of YUBI, as they are going to be able to take this down. No, they're looking for the Earth first. I don't think that's going to happen. Is this going to be able to held by Veshiwap? I'm certainly no, right? No, there goes the Nexus. YUBI taking a triumphant step forward against the Church.
Yeah, really well played game by YUBI. I mean, their composition was really interesting. I'm not sure I was the biggest fan of it initially, but obviously it worked out great. The fasting Senna was able to match Corki at the end of the game, and when that's able to happen, I mean, it's practically game over. Senna's just really passive lead back scaling pick and dealt the most damage in the game right up next to that Corki. It's sort of hard to just punch through the composition that YUBI set up, and superior laning mitigated anything Paytime was able to get done early. I think in terms of the Divine Sunder or Dark Harvest Poppy build, you might be able to say that one's a bust. Put it back in the box, tape it up.
Didn't look super strong. We see so much damage from the side of Church of Alfonso, but you have to see how big the health bars were on the side of YUBI, and not to mention those are getting refueled constantly by those Senna Qs. I think that YUBI actually put themselves together a very, very nice composition. They were able to execute on it very well. They said Jarvan ulti, layer that with the Annie, layer that with Brian going in, layer that with the Senna ulti. You're not going to kill any of us. You're all going to get CC'd. And it's something that is very... You need to execute it 1, 2, 3, and every single time they were bang on with it. I think they did a phenomenal job getting that engage. And like we said, that a lot of that stems from their early laning. Church of Alfonso was unable to create those early leads. They were unable to continue them. The Poppy did really well in the early stages, but that was all they had going for them.
Yeah, so with that being said, that was our last game of the night. But before we go, we have an interview with the victorious Universal Basic Income. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, folks, and welcome back for the last interview of the day. I am your friendly neighborhood shoutcaster, Shargan, and I have joining me Freelancer216, YUBI's top laner, someone who had lots of people coming to visit his lane earlier in that last game.
That's all right. I had a lot of fun. I don't mind when people come top. Just means, more fun situations to barely get out of by the skin of my teeth.
Right, flashing over the wall, walking to your teammates, and just kind of having like a quarter of your health bar left.
Exactly. I have way too much fun doing it. Even though it's objectively not very good, it's a lot of fun.
Yep. All right, well, let's just kind of hop into this. So Church of Alfonso doesn't have the largest number of games played, even though they have a fairly strong win record just due to scheduling and whatnot. So what was your plan drafting against this team?
So we started out by doing a few targeted picks at their most played players, and they did a few kind of response bans. We were fairly surprised when they left up Jarvan, kind of one of the strongest junglers on the patch. And then they responded with a Poppy Quirky pickup. The Poppy is actually a pretty good response to the Jarvan, but we were able to entirely shut the Quirky out of the game with the Jarvan kind of Annie combination there. And when we picked Senna, we were very surprised when they kind of counterpicked their own 80 carry with Ezreal. So that was a pretty big surprise for us. And then the rest of the draft is pretty straightforward from there, just picking a good support for Senna, and then I blinded my Cho'Gath. Decently stable into basically anything that they play in the top lane by Elliot.
Right. Well, specifically, I'd like to also ask you about, so RHC taking Corki. Seemed like they had a few packages that just went a little amiss. I kind of wanted to get your take on his performance on that champion.
Yeah, so that's a champion that Civilok is known for and plays very well. Not only that, it's a very strong champion at the moment. Even though we played it like last year when it wasn't considered that strong. For Church of Alfonso, they didn't really have the team comp to utilize Quirky package. The first thing that they needed is Quirky works best with engage, when you choose when you want to fight, as opposed to more of a disengage comp like they had. It's very hard to guarantee that your entire team can follow up on a Quirky package when you have a disengage comp. The second thing is they didn't really play around their package timings. There were several times that game where, the second main dragon fight, we engaged maybe 2 to 3 seconds after their package expired, and one of their biggest strengths at that point in the game was just gone. It was like losing an ultimate or several summoners. And that had a huge impact on how that second dragon fight went. Probably the last thing that I'll mention is just some of the team fight synergy is clearly not there. I forced Quirky package out. Just kind of walking up at the Quirky at, I believe, the third dragon fight, and he ended up having to like package away just to not get engaged on. And it ended up being kind of a very one-sided fight from there on. So anyone that's kind of looking to play Quirky in the future, it is a good champion, draft a team around it, and you really have to practice playing team fights with and have that team coordination.
I see. Got some advice from the Universal Basic Income, just liking to share all that wealth around, that wealth of knowledge. And with that, before I let you go, I got one last question for you, which is going to be, how do you feel about the BBZ UB rematch that's coming up tomorrow?
I'm always super excited to play BBZ. There's a lot of aggression that both of our teams kind of like to do. There's always a lot of fighting in the bot lane. I tend to like to fight in the top lane, and we both tend to play around the same objectives. We both like to fight for dragons a lot, tend to prioritize that over early towers. And so I'm looking forward to how it's going to go.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. Freelancer, thank you so much.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on, Jarrigan.
You are very welcome. And with that, we're going to say goodnight, folks. Thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we greatly enjoy having you here. Remember to tune in tomorrow for day number 2 of our league. We will be starting at about 4:30 Pacific time, and we look forward to seeing you then.